Hey guys, just some dude with a Land Rover here, making a video just in response to Andrew St. Pierre White's one of his recent videos about Land Rovers, Range Rovers, wheel speed sensors, the general reliability of the traction control, and mainly the air suspension system and how that all relates, and how that means that Land Rovers are absolutely not an overland vehicle, because all those things just leave you with too much of a risk of becoming stranded. So, I watched that video, that recent one with about wheel sensors, speed sensors, and I thought to myself, oh, there's a little bit of misinformation here. The years that I've watched Andrew St. Pierre White, I've seen, there's a number of times Range Rover, Land Rover air suspension systems have come up, and the things he's said, well, they come from the right spirit, where, like, yes, it is something that is less reliable than just a traditional leaf spring or coil spring or even a torsion bar. There's been a lot of stuff in there that is not particularly accurate when you consider that with just some very small, simple things, you can really safeguard yourself against 95% of the risks associated with having an air suspension system. And then once you've eliminated all those things, then you have to weigh up with the very small residual risk that's left over. What is the risk and benefit of having the air suspension? So before I go any further, I'd just like to say as well, this is not like an attack piece on Andrew. I love his content. I wouldn't even obviously be aware of any of this if I didn't watch it, and I wouldn't watch it if I didn't like it. So it shouldn't be taken as a negative on him in any way. So first thing, I've just got a few little notes here. A couple of things he said, over the years. One thing was with his D4 that he had in South Africa, and that he was unhappy with how at over 50 kilometers an hour, you can't. If you've got off-road height selected, it's just going to drop you back down to a regular height, and how that is an issue when driving over, fast gravel situations, or even fast beach, where maybe you'll experience a washout and you don't want to bottom out. And he's absolutely right. But I mean, what's the answer? It's just to get a suspension lift, really, and then you're just going to be at 2 inches higher at every single, whatever lift you get. You can have anything between 1 and any number you want, really. That's one of the advantages of having a system with airbags and ride height sensors. But whatever you want. I've got a 2 and a bit in this, and so basically that just means that every single height that you select, I'm just about probably 70 mil ish higher in every level than I otherwise would be. So when I'm just in normal mode, I'm actually in the off-road height already of other stock Discovery 3s, and that costs all of $200 to do that. So it's a pretty cheap 2-inch lift, and just completely solves that problem. So things like that, where he just says, oh yeah, because of X, that drops down at 50 k's an hour, and so it's a big issue, and trying to drive over gravel. I mean, most of us people in his land and the land of the people that watch him probably have modified four-wheel drives, and putting a lift on it is no different than putting a lift on any other car. So I don't really see the issue there. Other things are just, let's start with the general reliability of the airbag system and how it works, and then that will relate back to a few other things. So what is the most likely things to go wrong? The most likely thing by far is your ride height sensors, which are these little guys here. This is one that was in the vehicle when I got it. It still works. So what happens when these things fail? If one of these fails, absolutely nothing. You'll just get an orange light on the dash that just lets you know there is a fault in the system, but it will not affect the performance of the system in any way. Because let's say a right rear light level sensor went, it still knows how high the rear is because the rear left is still working, and then because both at the front are still working, it knows if the car's leaning left or right, to adjust for that. So if you lose one, nothing happens. If you lose two, it's going to drop you all the way down to your bump stops, and then you could be in a bit of strife. except for the fact that, I mean, knowing that fact, you really should just carry 4 spares of these. So the first thing I did when I got my vehicle was replace them all. There wasn't actually any issue with them, but I just replaced all these, and they cost about $70 to $80 a corner. And then all the old ones that were in the car are now just spares that travel with me, and as you can see, they're really small, so it's not taking up any extra space. And now, straight away, now you've solved the number one thing that can go wrong with the vehicle, that will let you down with the air suspension. That is by far the most common thing that would let you down with the air suspension. And like I said, 2 of them would have to fail for you to get that issue. So you got 4 good ones, 2 fail. I've got 4 spares, so I replaced those 2. Another 2 would have to fail. If they were the same 2, then I wouldn't have any spares, but potentially another 2 that I still have spares for could fail. And then another 2 again now that I've got no spares. So, you know, potentially 6 would have to fail. Which I think everyone can agree is ridiculously unlikely would happen once you've got those spares. Now, the second most likely thing to fail in the air suspension is the air compressor. All right, next take. Sorry, just got interrupted there. So where are we at? We're just saying, so the most likely thing to fail is your ride height sensors. Very, very easy and prudent just to carry some spares, because why not? It's only small. It's safeguarding you against the most likely thing to fail. And the second most likely thing to fail is your air compressor. So obviously if you lose that, I mean, potentially you could just stay at the same height, but you're not going to be able to adjust up and down, because you're only going to have the air that's in there. Plus I'm sure it's going to throw some kind of fault. I've never had it happen. But anyway, what can you do if that fails? Well, right here we've just got some inline push fit connections, 6mm, because that's what the Land Rover uses, 6mm air tube. So inline push fit 6mm, and then a push fit to screw adapter to a screwed Schrader valve, and obviously 4 of those each. So if your air compressor fails and your car's dropped down, you just simply get under the car with your tools that any four-wheel driver should have, some basic tools in the car, cut your 6mm air line that's coming out of each airbag, push fit goes in to a Schrader valve, and then you just manually inflate your airbags to what height you want. So this is one of the things that really kind of where I was just like, what the hell, when I was listening to Andrew talk about doing the canning stock route, and your air suspension drops right down. So how are you going to drive out or get it towed out? Imagine suggesting leaving a $100,000 freaking Range Rover that you'd have to in the middle of the canning stock route because of some electrical thing failing. Imagine if as four-wheel drivers we had some kind of device which all of us carry in the car, which can inflate volumes of air. It's not hard. These here cost about $70 for all of those. Now you can make yourself up a system that's permanently installed as well, whereas instead of inline connectors you can make yourself up one with T-piece, and then take out your line from that to a Schrader valve, and put them under the bonnet or wherever you want to put them, just so you have easy access, and that way you can just pull the fuse that powers the air blocks, which divert where the air goes in the car. So once that's pulled, all the air valves just stay in the closed position, so every airbag is essentially isolated from each other and the central tank, and then you can just use those permanently installed hoses under your bonnet, much like you would diff breathers, and you can just manually inflate your car there and just have a permanent neat install. But I've just got this and some hose in the car. If I ever have to use it at that point in time, I've already cut into the system. That's when I'd probably, once I get home, just retrofit that system and have it. So with those two things, you've covered 98% of what can fail with your air system. Now, the only other thing is a catastrophic airbag failure, which is incredibly unlikely. Obviously, it can happen. It's more likely to happen than a coil spring breaking, that's for sure. But you know, the airbags in these have aluminium shield. You know, it's probably 3mm thick aluminium case around the airbag. So you know, getting hit with punching with sticks and things like that. I mean, I've never heard of it happening. I've heard plenty of examples of Land Rovers breaking down for all sorts of reasons, but never an catastrophic airbag failure. You do get a slow leak from time to time if the airbags are really old, but having one just, you know, essentially blow out is kind of almost unheard of, unless maybe you hit a washout at like 110 kilometers an hour and just overpressure them to crap. So, you know, I think that, you know, covers most of the things. You know, if you have, as far as the ABS sensors go, if you lose one, you're pretty much going to lose no functionality. It's similar to the ride height sensors. It's barely going to affect your off-road ability of the vehicle, because the system can kind of infer what's happening with one wheel by what's happening with the other wheels, and you're going to lose very little in the way of how the ABS traction control system works with just losing one. If you lose two, I think that will drop you down, not to the bump stops, but it drops you down to a very low height, which that can be overcome again with manual inflation. You can simply turn your car off, turn it on again, because it's not going to give that error until you start driving. Pump your car up to the height you want, and then just pull the fuses out of the air blocks. And so you don't even need to worry about using your push fits and cutting into the system, because you can just, yeah, like I said, pull the fuse to the air blocks once it's up, and then when you start driving and that wheel speed sensor fault comes up and it wants to drop you down, it can't, because you just pulled those fuses. So, I mean, it sounds like a bit of a rigmarole, but with like any vehicle, you really should know what are the issues that, you know, you are the most likely ones to let you down with whatever vehicle you have, and there's some simple fixes for that. And in the case of the Landy, you know, yes, there absolutely are. You know, just like a 70 series Land Cruiser, you know, that has the, you know, you should know that your airbox has got a good chance of letting dust just go straight past your air filter and into your engine. You know, I work in the mines, and since I heard about that, I've had a look at a few of the vehicles up there, and it indeed does happen to quite a few of them. Does that mean it's a bad vehicle? Absolutely not. It's just something you should know about with whatever vehicle you own. And yeah, in that case with the 70 series, it's an easy fix. So I think that pretty much just about covers everything. One other thing he did say was just the annoying electronics and the niggles, where he had some Defender that wouldn't start because battery went flat, and then decided it didn't want it and it wouldn't start without some guy plugging a laptop into it. Well, with these things, you can just get what's called a GAP2 scan tool, which is a mechanic grade scan tool. It doesn't just read faults. You just plug it in and it connects to your phone via Bluetooth. Just a little thing like this, and you can get all the readouts, all the faults. But not only that, you can adjust settings, clear faults, things like that. So with just a small device, which I don't actually have one, I've got one on order, which I just ordered since the video. It's been something I've been meaning to get for ages, and actually hearing Andrew's video just made me pull the finger out and go, yeah, I really freaking should have one of those for remote touring. So with just a couple of wheel speed height sensors like that, some simple push fits, and the scan tool, which I've got on the way, really, you know, all of which fit into like a freaking lunchbox, like a child's lunchbox. With just those spares, you've pretty much protected yourself against everything that is likely to go wrong with the Land Rover. Then, apart from that, it's just like a regular vehicle, really. It has a freaking ECU, which if that dies, you know, it's not like we've got driving around an old mechanical diesels anymore. So, you know, obviously this engine's not as reliable as something in a Land Cruiser, but it's pretty good. So, I'll just leave it at that. Just a quick little afterthought. During that video I made, I only had a couple of like little dot points, not really any proper notes to speak of, and if it didn't come across properly in the video,
I don't disagree with anything that Andrew said, regarding all these problems. It would be better if a lot of them just didn't exist in the first place. It'd be better if all of them didn't. It'd be better if the vehicle just had a manually locking center diff where you can just lock it. And it would be better if, for some weird little electrical reason, some weird little safety reason, the Land Rover didn't decide that it's best just to drop down to a low ride height. But all I was trying to say is that none of these things are trip-ending catastrophes like it sounded like Andrew was saying they were in some of his recent and past videos regarding air suspension. Although all these problems are not ideal, and it'd be far better if Land Rover hadn't designed certain things certain ways in the first place, with just a couple of spares and a little bit of knowledge about how the system works. None of them are really trip-ending catastrophes. One other little thing, you were saying that you think there might be, when you're talking about independent air suspension versus like the solid axles in the Classic, there'd be situations where the newer vehicles would be better, and there'd be situations where the Classic might be better off-road. I don't reckon there's going to be many situations where a Classic that is modified to the standard of yours with open diffs would be much better. But if you want to go for a full drive sometime and we can do a bit of a comparison, it might be quite interesting. Oh, that's all I have to say. See ya.